Welcome back to another episode of the unedited version of the well-loved knitting podcast. I enjoyed the format of last time. It was really nice just to click record and just say whatever and not have to worry about it. It was actually surprising how well it turned out because most of the time I'm interrupted or not very cohesive in my thoughts, which is why I tend to edit myself just for your viewing pleasure. Not really anything other than that, but yeah, it went pretty smoothly. I think maybe my brain is like, okay, I'm not gonna touch this afterwards, so it better be good. So let's see if this time it's the same. I'm in a new area. This area of my living room always gets rearranged. I feel like it's the majority of the time, it's just a blank wall. I told you guys that I didn't like my yarn organization setup. I was done with my glass cabinet. I hated looking at it. It just was an uninspiring large structure in my main living space. So I actually sold it. And I packed away all my yarn in some just storage boxes. So trying to figure out what to do here. I think honestly we're making room for Arthur and some of his toy storage because now that he's gotten a lot older, we have so many toys. It's hilarious, and I've been seeing this thought kind of posting around, so maybe it's the algorithm getting to me. It's just like expectations that you had before you were a mom. Like, I parented so perfectly before I actually had kids versus now that I have a kid. I'm welcoming a bunch of toys that I probably would have been like, I'm not getting him so many toys. He's going to learn how to entertain himself with like one or two things. So yeah, anyway, long way of saying that I have got a lot of baby toys I've accumulated over the last couple of months, and I need a place for them. So that's probably what this space is eventually going to become. But right now it's just a blank wall. So perfect backdrop for a knitting podcast. Yeah, this episode I really just wanted to get myself reacquainted with my projects. I went on a trip, like I was telling you guys a couple of weeks ago, to the US, and when I went, I was very good at packing. Let me back up. I was very good at packing. I only brought a sock project and another project that I have a commitment for, which I didn't do like anything on, but yeah, I only packed 2 projects, and I only packed the necessities. You know how typically, I would have had an overpacking problem. Like I would take too many whips and not touch any of them. This time I didn't take that many whips at all, and I still didn't really touch any of them. But that's just life right now. So I left a lot of whips at home. So I have things to kind of remind myself about. When I say a lot, it's actually not that many. Now that I'm looking down, I was thinking that I had a lot more ongoing, but I think I've been very good at just reeling myself in and being very realistic about the phase of life that I'm in, and I'm not able to touch. Oops, hold on one sec. Molly needs me to, okay. I'm not gonna edit this. You wanna go out? There you go. See, it happens. But anyway, I've committed myself. So, right. I don't really have that many whips, but I'm still going to share with you like I did have a lot that I forgot about while I was away. First, what I'm wearing something that's me made. I'm gonna be honest with you, it's not very practical for me walking around the house because this is something that I made myself for my maternity wardrobe. It's a self-drafted tiered dress. You might have seen it when I got up. There's just gathers. It's a big dress. It's very grand, and I think it's just the sheer amount of fabric, and it's just very long, and I made it that way because at the time that I made it, I was pretty pregnant. I think it was about a year ago. So I was like 6 or 7 months pregnant. Yeah, 6 or 7 months pregnant, so I had quite a big belly bump. And it's funny now that I don't have the belly bump how long this is. So even with the bump, it went down to my ankles, and now it's like dragging close to the floor. So it's a grand dress. It's definitely something that I would wear if I wanted to feel a little bit fancier. I'm just wearing it now because I felt like I needed to put on something that was me made, you know? It's made with black linen, and I followed a tutorial from the Essentials Club, who I shout out a lot, and I really, really love all of her videos and her content over on her Instagram. She's been posting a lot over there, and I really love to follow her. She's a big inspiration to me. And yeah, that's the gist of what you see on the screen. So now I'm gonna go into the projects that I wanna talk about. So I mentioned that I had that sock project that I brought on vacation, and I'm very proud that when I left for the trip, I think I maybe had part of the leg or the full leg of the sock, one sock, and then I finished both of them while I was away. So this is my regie tweed socks that I was working on. These were, the project was inspired by a pair of socks that I have at home. They look nothing like, these look nothing like the socks that I was inspired by. I mean, hand knit socks also have like a looser quality to them. I will say that the store-bought socks, machine knit socks, they just keep their shape and they hug the foot so much nicer than hand knit socks. But even still, throwing these in the wash and dryer really helped them stay form-fitting, if that makes sense. Do you have the same problem with your hand knit socks? Because I feel like, yeah, even here you can kind of see how just big they look, and they just don't really keep their the integrity of the shape. So I didn't wash these before putting these on, so these are fresh off my feet. I've been wearing them around the house, and you can definitely see that they've stretched out quite a bit compared to, you know, when they're on the needles or just freshly off the needles. I just did my vanilla sock pattern, which is loosely based off of Petite Knit's pattern, everyday sock pattern. Just some modifications here and there, and you'll definitely see, especially at the top. So on the top of the foot, I went ahead and did some ribbing. I think I did knit 4, purl 1 across the top, and it just kind of worked out nicely with the stitch count that I was working with. So that worked. I just basically took the number of stitches from that would be resting on my top needle if you were working magic loop, and then I just figured out a stitch count that would work for ribbing. So in this case it was purl 1, knit 4, purl 1, knit 4. And yeah, there you go. That's the front. I think it turned out pretty nice. I thought it was gonna look a little bit more elegant. I mean, it's just a basic sock. It doesn't really need to look like anything, but that's the word I can think of. I don't know. I just wanted something a little bit different from just a regular plain stockinette sock, but still something that's not like too complicated. I love the look of lace socks. I just don't really find that I would, well, I don't know. Maybe I would wear them, but they're not the first thing that I would want to cast off the needle or cast on the needles. So yeah, the ribbing was the one thing that could come to mind that would make it a little bit more interesting than just a plain stockinette sock. And I think I still really like just knitting stockinette socks because I just enjoy the process so much more. I really, for socks, don't want to be looking at a pattern. And I've gotten to a point with the everyday socks that I don't have to look at a pattern. So I didn't have to this time, but I still had to pay attention to what I was doing at the top. And there were multiple times when I forgot that I was doing the ribbed motif. So I had to fix that, which was kind of frustrating. So anyway, I finished the socks. I'm very proud that during my vacation I managed to at least crank out some kind of project, and that I didn't take home an unfinished whip with me. So that was really nice. And like I was mentioning, regie tweed is great. I really like this yarn. I really like this yarn for socks, the regie base. from Schackenmeyer. And the only thing about this colorway in particular, I just wish that there were more colors with the neps. Like, it's really heavy on the oranges and reds, and I would just love more like purples or something. There's no purple in here. Maybe just some more like funfetti type colors. These are very dark, so the sock kind of like comes off a little darker than I would like. And I just did a regular 1x1 ribbed cuff, and I made it a little bit thicker than the normal everyday sock pattern. And there you have it. Those are my modified vanilla socks. And I'm very happy to have them so I can get started on another sock project. I'm probably going to be using maybe one of the sock yarns that I picked up in my last yarn haul from the US. I think those are some good ones. I just need to wind them up, you know? Okay, so another one that I want to follow up on from my last knitting podcast when I was talking about projects is my crochet baby blanket. Holy cow, this thing looks awesome. Just a moment to appreciate it. It looks so cool. I am really loving the different colors here. This has just been a fun playtime type of project. First of all, crochet. I think I take myself less seriously with crochet because I know that I don't know the ins and outs of this craft. Not to say I know everything about knitting either, far from it. It's just, I feel like since I have more knitting experience under my belt, I hold myself to a higher standard with, just personally, with the projects that I make, the things that, that I knit on or that I potentially would want to knit on. I don't even know how to explain it to you. It's really not even, like, if you actually look at my projects, is there really that much of a standard? I don't know, but I guess I overthink my knitting projects a lot more than I have been knitting or crocheting this one up. And maybe, I think it's because crochet is so foreign to me, but it also could just be I'm letting that go. I don't know. All of that to say, this is completely out of my normal comfort zone. And I think it's because, again, that I'm just playing around with a new hobby, which is really, really fun. I've kind of hit a big wall on this project though. Like, at first when I started, you can see in the middle, when I first showed it to you guys, I think I was around here. So I've definitely got a lot more rows in, but it's taken me a really long time. When I first started, just so giddy at how fast it was working up, but then obviously it grows and grows, and I have rows and rows to do around the square, and the bigger it gets, the longer it takes. So understandably, it's been taking me a while, but seeing things, this is very much inspired by a video, I don't know if you've seen it, from Jenna Phipps. I'm sure you know her. She made a crochet blanket in 48 hours, which was already much bigger than this one. And I want to say that this one has taken me 40 days, not 48 hours, and I'm still nowhere to be done. I think I compared it to a baby blanket that I have for Arthur now, and I think I need at least 4 rows, but I'm probably gonna go 5, 6, maybe 7, just because I don't want it to be too small, because he's already growing so much bigger than, I don't know, he's just so much bigger, so I want it to be like an actual blanket he can use. But I kind of want to stop on the project. I'm kind of, like I said, hitting a wall in that each row is just taking so dang long, and I'm not as enthusiastic about how the colors are growing. I love the way it looks, and I think I've tried really hard not to make it look purposeful, but keep it cohesive. I think I'm doing an okay job. It's not like there's a set pattern, but you can definitely see that I've tried every so often to incorporate similar colors. So like you'll see the red, and that ties it in together, and then you'll just see each color, they're coming, but they're coming at a more random rate. So that kind of makes me happy because I want it to look cohesive, but then I also want it to look unintentional. So I don't know if I've done that, but I'm happy with the way it looks. It's also very colorful, and I'm using up a lot of scraps that I have from Woolly Knit. I've got so many cones that honestly it was making me a little overwhelmed on what am I going to knit with all of this. So to be able to work it up in a crochet project has made me feel really good. And yeah, I'm really loving the different colors here. But yeah, this was definitely inspired by Jenna's blanket. I'm just in awe about how fast she worked that up. It's probably, well, it's definitely because I'm just not a very coordinated crocheter, but I'm also working double-stranded, so that has made it a little bit more difficult with this crochet hook. This is the only one that I have on hand. Well, I have a couple, but this is the one. It's a 5mm crochet hook, and this is the only 5mm I have that I think produced the right looking stitch. Like, the stitch looks good. It doesn't look too loose, it doesn't look too tight. It's fairly easy to get off the hook with my double strand, but there are moments where it does get caught and making it a little bit more difficult to work through. So that has also slowed me down a little bit, paired also with my inexperience with crochet. But that being said, I think that this looks really great as like a first crochet project. I mean, what else I've worked on? That scarf, and that was the only one that I actually finished, and that was on a chunkier hook, so that I think would be considered much easier than this. And then I've worked with other things with a 5mm hook, and I've abandoned them because they were too complicated. So I think I found a really good, middle ground as far as projects go. I have a whole bag here full of my yarn that I'm using, and I have to wind some more cakes up because some of these colors I've run out of little cakes. Because I'm working 2 strands held together, I need them wound up in these cakes instead of working on the cones, just because I can't pull a second strand from the cone. But I've got some nice colors here. And yeah, like I said, it's just fun to use this as a way to play. Like, I wanted those Woolly Knit cones in really vibrant colors because I had an itch to play with color. It's just, like I said, hold myself to a little bit more of a standard, or I like gatekeep myself from color sometimes, which is just stupid. But I sit there and think, I'm always thinking in terms of, will I wear it, will I not? But making like a home object, like a blanket, has been really nice and freeing, and working on a granny square project has been really fun. And yeah, there's just like another level of creativity with it, and I can be more spontaneous. So hitting a wall with this, I'm ready to finish it up. I will probably do a couple more rows, at least 4 or 5, like I said, to finish this one up, at least for now. I think the beauty with a large granny square type blanket like this is that I can pick it up later and make it bigger when I need to. Granted, if I still have the yarn, but I think I'll have plenty of yarn left over to work on it. So if I ever want to make it bigger for Arthur as he's growing, I can, which is a really fun thought, that I can just pick it up later. So it can be considered a finished object, and then maybe like a year or 2 down the line, if I want to continue it and extend it a little bit, I can do so, which is nice. I want to get started on another granny square blanket, but this time I don't think I'm gonna be doing like the large, massive granny square. I think I'm gonna do smaller ones, because I would really like to have another one for our bed, like just to put over top of our bed. It's just like a little decorative throw. Have like no purpose, you know, like those pillows that you put on the bed to look nice, and then you just take them off immediately when you go to sleep. that's kind of what I'm thinking for this blanket. But I won't be making it as colorful as this one. I think I'm gonna go for more neutral tones with a couple of colors, like selected ones. Like here, how I balanced it out is every 2 rows I alternated with white or like a darker color. So this is navy, but then I also had blue, or I also had black in there. And then I have this cream color, but then I also have like this more tweedy looking grayish color. And that has helped it, I don't know, stay bright. But I'm thinking if I just remove the cream and I work with maybe all navy and black alternated with some color every once in a while, that could look really cool. I don't know, we don't really have a theme for my bedroom. There's no like color that we're really stuck with, you know? So I can kind of just let my creativity flow. But I'm gonna do granny squares that are a little bit more mismatched. So obviously not as big as this one, maybe granny squares that are about this big and then seam them all together. I think that would be nice. And that way I can also play around with color more and see what patterns I really like. It's the first couple of rows of those granny squares that I think are just so much fun, because you get to see like how each color really affects the way that you look at the granny square. When it gets to be this big, as you keep going with the rows, like I was saying, it's kind of just, it's not as fun anymore. Once you get to a point where it's very big, you don't really notice in the grand scheme of things until I think you're done with the project, that you're like, wow, those last couple of rows really changed the way that the granny square blanket looked. So that's my crochet journey, to be continued. Having a lot of fun with it, having a lot of fun with crochet. This project in particular, I think we're coming to an end, which I'm very excited about. So one other thing that I started on when before I left, that I quickly abandoned, you know, I'm sure you can relate to me when you have like a vacation coming up, for example, and you have like this idea like, wow, it would be so nice to have this particular piece of clothing for my vacation. It's a knit item, and oh, it would be so nice to have that. It would be really beautiful for my vacation pictures. Oh, it would look so nice. And then I have the yarn for it, but I only have a week until I leave. I'm sure I can make it. So then you cast on a project, and then of course you don't finish it, or you don't get anywhere near finishing it if you're like me, because who has the time? So I was working on all these other things too. That's what this is. So this right here is a loose knit sweater that I hope it will become one day. Right now it's just a jumbled up mess on my cables, but as you can see there, it's a really open gauge, and I'm knitting with cotton yarn because I have it in my stash, and I wanted to give it a second chance after I was kind of saying that I don't really like cotton, which is still true. This hasn't been very fun to work with, but even still, I want to get it out of my stash. And yeah, I want the object. I want the finished object a lot. So this was kind of like a pool cover-up idea, or just like a loose knit sweater that I could wear indoors in the evening when it's nice and breezy. That was the main idea. I don't really have any inspiration or like patterns that I can share. Really, there was, can you hear that? I'm gonna close the door. Okay. So I don't really have any patterns to share. I'm really just basing this off of my own, whatever I want to do. I saw a store-bought sweater that was kind of similar, that was inspiring this, to be honest, but I couldn't really tell you where I saw it from. So yeah, it would just basically be a drop shoulder sweater that's knit at a looser gauge. These are 6mm, I want to say. 6mm. yes, 6mm, and this is the yarn that I'm working with. So this is actually from Sostrena Grena. If you know it, it's a pretty popular store in Europe. I don't know if they have any in the US. I'm thinking not. It's like a Scandinavian home goods store, and they also sell yarn, and they have this organic cotton that is really cheap. It's like euro something, like €1.50 I think per skein, and I had 6 of them, and I originally bought it last year to make the June top, but I didn't and so then I saw it in my stash, and I was thinking, you know what, I want this nice beachy top, why not get started on it? And it just took a lot longer. It's just one of those things where I was like, okay, 6mm, this is gonna fly off the needles, whatever, but it just takes longer than you imagine. It always does. This always happens, and I never learned my lesson. But even still, I might have a shot at getting this done before summertime, but I'm not gonna hold my breath. The funny thing is that while it's knit on a looser gauge, I feel like it's more difficult for me to knit fast with like a fingering weight yarn on thicker needles like this. It's just kind of clunky. It's a little awkward. So I have a little bit of trouble with that. So that's just, it just didn't go as fast. So whenever I have some time, I will work on this. My plan, like I said, is to do like a drop shoulder. I'm thinking what I would do also is pick up with smaller needles around the neckline, cuffs, and ribbing, and knit at a tighter gauge some ribbing, which would look really cool. But to be determined how I get with that. I think maybe it could also just be nice just leaving it loose and having like a wider neckline, maybe like wider sleeves, just like a loose fit. That could also just be really nice. So I think I will work on this body a little bit longer. Kind of just depends my motivation. I had originally envisioned it to be like very like big and slouchy, so a lot longer on the torso, but I don't know. This is 1 skein done, so that means I have 5 left. So maybe I'll do 2 more skeins for the body and then see what I'm thinking. If that's long enough, then I'll just keep going and continue with the rest of the pieces. That's really what this is. It's just one of those things where I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna have this for my vacation. Yeah, sure you are. That didn't happen. So it's here. It's a whip that I need to give some time to, hopefully in the near future. Now here's one that's a priority on the needles. It's something that I'm actually getting commissioned to work on. So this is a more sponsored portion of the podcast. You might have seen that there is a new knitting pattern book out. It's called Making Memories by Claudia I was really hoping I wasn't gonna mess this up. By Claudia Quintanilla. Making Memories. This pattern book is so cute. It's got some really timeless designs for children, knitting patterns, a lot of things that you would see in like a shop. It just really sweet things to knit up. Let me let Molly back in. 1 second. Hello, Molly. Are you done? I'm sorry about that. I hope that's the last time that happens. So, what was I talking about? Making Memories. This is a pattern book for children knitting patterns, and there's a lot of just really sweet and classic designs in here, and I really like the concept behind it, or what it really makes me think about. Making memories, like I'm physically making something for my child, and this itself is becoming a memory. It's a memento of this time in my life where I'm not very I don't have a lot of time to knit, but I'm making something for Arthur, while he is just growing so fast and learning so much and doing so much, I told you guys he is just exploded with skills. His skills have exploded over the last couple of weeks, and it's just been amazing to witness that. So I've had a couple of thoughts while I was working on this piece that I'm actually physically making a memory. We're making memories together while I'm stitching this, and I'm gonna look at this finished object and just think like, yeah, remember the time when I really didn't have much time to pick up my needles, but I still made this, and Arthur was pulling up to stand. Like anytime I'm sitting up in a chair, he crawls over to me and he tries his best to just pull up because he wants to be standing up. He wants to, yeah, practice all those skills, and it's really cool to witness. So this is the little memory that I'm making while he is just growing up so fast. This is the Luca cardigan and I am knitting the 18-month size, which I hope I am. I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm having a little bit of a hard time keeping track of my place I'm just not used to working out of a pattern book, and also the formatting of this pattern. I really love the pattern. I think it's a lot of fun to work up, and I don't really think it's too challenging. It might look complicated, but it's a really simple and really fun stitch repeat to work up. It's just that since it's printed and since it's in a book, and also just the formatting is a lot different from what I'm used to because I'm always working on my phone. That's nothing against the pattern, it's just it's out of my comfort zone, or it's out of my usual. So I am having a little bit of a problem with following instructions, which, you know, it is what it is. It's not unusual for me, to be honest. I feel like I always get to a point in a pattern where I just don't really follow the instructions to a T. So anyway, knitting the 18-month size because I was hoping that he would fit into it a little bit longer. He's 9 months now, but fitting into 1 year clothes. So he's a big boy. But yeah, as you can see, it's a sweet textured cardigan. I really loved this stitch. This is what made me want to knit this up. So this is a gifted pattern. This is a gifted book, gifted yarn. The yarn that I'm working with is Double Sunday in a really beautiful tan color. I hear the baby. Let me finish this and I will go get him. So yeah, this is just really sweet. It's the Luca cardigan. It's a lot of fun to work up, and yeah, I don't know what else to say. Yeah, once the baby starts crying, then I'm kind of, my brain is away from what it is I'm working on with knits and things. So that's just the reality of being a mom, a crafting mom. I'm really enjoying the pattern, really enjoying the stitch. Like I said, I think it will be a really nice timeless piece. So I think she really she really hit the nail on the head with some of these designs. I really could see this staying in our family for a really long time. This would be, yeah, like an heirloom piece. All of my babies will be wearing this one when it's finished. I can definitely see that. So it's really lovely. Okay, I've got a crying baby that just woke up from a nap, so I gotta go. This was fun. Sorry for all the disruptions. I'm gonna look back through and make sure that it wasn't too disruptive before posting this. So I just appreciate you sitting down and chatting with me about these projects. I didn't cover everything, so there's definitely more to share very soon, and I hope I will be able to do so. So thank you for clicking on this video. If you like this video, definitely give it a like. It really helps me out. Maybe subscribe if you like these kind of relaxed podcast type unedited videos. I want to start doing that specifically for these podcast things where I'm doing project updates and just other more laid back sit down type videos. putting a little less production into it would really help me out. And I also think that it's kind of refreshing. Somebody said it was refreshing, so I hope that's the general consensus. Okay, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.